As we continue to look at events that will happen right after the rapture, that are setting up right now, we come to the second, third, and fourth seals, which are clearly setting up right now. Before we get into those, there is breaking news about the red heifers in the third temple. You've probably already seen this on our news, but I do want to briefly talk about it here because it's so huge. If you recall, the red heifer ceremony back in July was reportedly a practice ceremony, but us and many others showed a lot of reports that showed that this was an actual ceremony. Well, as we now find out, it was the actual ceremony, and this is huge news.
And what's in your hand again?
So this is the red heifer ash that came from the July 1st ceremony of the red heifer. There were those that said that the cow we used got bit by a dog. They had to take that back because that wasn't true. And there were those that said it was a white cow. And they had to take that back because that wasn't true. There were those that said it wasn't a pure cow. It was the purest we had there. And the Cohen was pure. And it produced these ashes for the first time in 2,000 years. We have the ashes.
We have an update on the red heifer ceremony that took place on July 1st. Those involved are saying that it was done accurately and according to the purification standards. Information has come out indicating that the Temple Institute made false claims to cover up exactly what the ceremony was. This has led to those involved with the Temple Institute to make public statements saying that they were given false information to spread about this event. Those at the ceremony are claiming that it was a genuine ceremony and that the ashes that were collected are enough to purify 1 billion people. There's also claims that the ashes were recently used to heal people. Byron Stenson, the man who helped get the red heifers to Israel and is saying that it was a real ceremony, is also about to travel to Papua New Guinea to try to acquire the gold that will be necessary to build the third temple. On September 18th, Byron Stenson went on a San Antonio news station to talk about this ceremony that took place, which he was at, and he says that it was a genuine ceremony.
So that ceremony just happened in July, right?
July 1st.
And this is the first ceremony ever in 2,000 years.
Right. It has to, the wood has to be a certain kind of wood. There has, we didn't know for sure when we did the ceremony, will you have enough wood? Is it, we had to find out what kind of wood.
And
so
all
the
that was
rabbis
there?
were studying all of that. And all of it got there, and we didn't know. You do a practice, you don't know, it may not go well. We had the perfect ceremony and wound up with the perfect ashes out of it.
I made a video on my second channel, Sling and Stone Live, showing Adam King on Tim Pool's podcast holding a bag of ashes that he claimed was from the red heifer ceremony. He also stated that it was a genuine ceremony and not just a practice one. Well, it turns out that Byron Stenson has the exact same type of bag of red heifer ashes, and he says that the ceremony that took place was genuine.
What's next? What needs to happen for that temple?
So the ceremony of the red heifer is not a sacrifice, but it's a ceremony where you get the ashes of the red heifer.
And you just got back from Israel and you guys did that ceremony, right?
Yeah, I actually have some ash in my pocket. And
You want to show us?
Yeah, let me see if I can dig it out.
You brought the cow's ashes with you?
Well, I did, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so here, you can hold it. These are the ashes of this is just a little bit of the ash from the first ceremony in 2,000 years. This is the ash that we produced when we went and we took a cow that was pure, as the purest one we had. We took a Cohen priest that's been prepared his entire life to do this ceremony. And we did it outside the camp of Shiloh, and we produced these ashes. And so they're the first time these ashes have been on earth in 2,000 years.
Byron Stenson also stated in this interview that he's now involved with trying to attain the gold that's going to be used for the actual building of the third temple. He says that soon he'll be going to Papua New Guinea to speak with gold miners who are trying to attain this gold for this purpose. But before we hear what he has to say about that, the Temple Institute, who are the ones who've been involved, leading the charge to rebuild the third temple and to create this red heifer ceremony, it turns out that they were actually giving false information to journalists to try and make it sound like the July 1st ceremony wasn't genuine or had no significance. Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz, who's worked closely with the Temple Institute and is a journalist for Israel 365 News, posted a video yesterday to his YouTube channel stating that he was given false information by the Temple Institute for this purpose.
I would like to say in my defense that I was given false information. These are some of the points that I discovered were inaccurate. The young Cohen appointed by the Temple Institute, whose identity I still do not know, he was trained to carry out the ritual. He told several people at the event that the red heifer was kosher and that the ritual was not a dry run, but was in fact intended to produce effective and authentic ashes that could be used to purify Jews. And in the end, he verified that that was what the burning had produced, actual ashes that could be used to purify Jews. I was told by the Temple Institute that the cow had been bitten by a dog, rendering it unsuited. Several sources who were at the burning denied this. I was told that the cow had been slaughtered in one location and burned in another, which would not produce the desired kosher results. Several eyewitnesses claimed this was not the case, though I still cannot verify or unverify it. It was clear that the July ritual was not carried out on the Mount of Olives, as is stated in the Talmud that it must be. The ritual was carried out in Samaria, but the young Cohen told some witnesses that this was acceptable.
Now, what I also found very interesting in that interview is that Byron said that he's going to be traveling to Papua New Guinea soon to try to acquire the gold to be used in building the third temple.
So they're mining the gold specifically for when the temple is built?
They want to give gold for the temple, yeah, free.
So once the temple is built, you have to have a certain amount of gold? Or
Everything.
what is needed? So the temple will be coated in gold when it's built?
Absolutely.
All of it.
Yeah,
Wow.
the implements,
and
everything.
so even that process is now underway as well. That gold mining.
It'll have to be God, but yes, it's already, we're having discussions. Now, where will it go? I have no idea, but you asked me what's next for me. I may be taking a trip to Papua New Guinea in the next short while to discuss that.
So technically, the process to rebuild has really started.
This is huge news. Construction on a third temple is going to begin at any day now. Prophecy is absolutely unfolding, and tribulation is without a doubt directly in front of us. So let's look at the second seal. When he broke the second seal, I heard the second living creature saying, "Come," and another, a red horse, went out, and to him who sat on it was granted to take peace from the earth, and that people would kill one another, and a large sword was given to him.
The Marines here today are cut from the same cloth as those who seized Tarawa, withstood the cold of Korea, and fought through the streets of Iraq and the mountains of Afghanistan. And the next fight is coming. Trust me, it's coming. And the next fight is coming. Trust me, it's coming.
Everyone is talking about war with China in Washington by 2027. It's so weird, as if we just are trying to rush headlong into complete destruction. But we have official documents, a Navy strategy saying we must prepare for war with China by 2027. We had a major article in the New York Times. It was a story about the Pentagon preparing for war with China. So I wrote the reporter and I said, "Thank you for writing that story. I was happy to read it now because there'll be no time to read it after the war. We'll all be dead. So I'm glad that we have the story now." And the reporter wrote back to me, said, "Oh, Jeff, I had put in 3 times that the Pentagon doesn't want this war, but the editor took it out 3 times, and I don't really know why, and I didn't notice that in the hurrying to finish the piece."
Do you think China will attempt to take over Taiwan by force, and if so, how?
Absolutely. How? I think they're going to come by the air. The general notion is that they're going to use an amphibious landing. I think they will use elements of maritime forces, but I think that's going to be a massive air invasion.
When do you think this is going to happen? Do you
At
have
any
idea?
time. We just had Admiral Aquilino come and testify in Congress. I think it was this week. They're going to be ready by 2027. The weaponry that they've arrayed on their side of the Taiwan Strait has been building for decades. You can take those weapons, you can make Taiwan look like the surface of the moon and still have weapons left.
If they take Taiwan, we won't be able to strategically defend Japan, Philippines, Thailand, the countries that you had just mentioned, or would it be more towards the chip manufacturing that goes on there?
Some of the candidates have said chip manufacturing is the only thing that matters.
Today is October the 9th, 2025, and we're hearing that there is a lot coming out regarding concerns with Russia stoking nuclear war fears by issuing new threats today. And we're hearing that NATO, the United States, the entire world right now is posturing, pre-war posturing, preparing for essentially global conflict, World War III. Let's take a look at the latest headlines. I've got a lot to cover, a lot coming out, so that way you can see it for yourself. Russia stokes nuclear war fears by saying the world would applaud strike on NATO heavyweight, and they're talking about the UK, the United Kingdom. In addition to that, Europe faces significant risk of major war if Russia starts mobilization, Zelensky says. NATO allies discuss letting pilots open fire on Russian aircrafts. You can see this coming out in the last 24 hours. They're now saying shoot them down. Donald Trump supporting that. The United States, they're saying shoot Russia down. NATO weighs armed response to Vladimir Putin's hybrid war. They are preparing and prepping for all-out war. And take a look at this coming out just 3 hours ago today. Europe worries that it is already at war, and America has not even noticed.
And now we come to the third seal. When he broke the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come." I looked, and behold, a black horse. And the one who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard something like a voice in the center of the four living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not damage the oil in the wine." A horribly bad worldwide famine is coming, but there is a catch to it. The elite will not be affected by it. That's what not damaging the oil in the wine means. That also lets us know that this is a created famine. I'm not going to dwell on how we know that here. We've covered that in articles on our website along with previous podcasts. Rather, what I want to do here is to show you that it is in the process of being set up and created right now.
The UK has just concluded a trial of a personal carbon dioxide allowance, which, as the name implies, calculates how much carbon dioxide is produced annually in the UK and then divides that per person per day, then works out by how much that figure needs to fall in order to meet net zero goals. We have the white paper in my office that informed the trial. The whole concept of a daily carbon dioxide allowance is now out there for all to see. Conspiracy theory no more. I bloody told you so. To anyone who is advised by data and empirical evidence, not mass formation psychosis, carbon dioxide is the gas of life, necessary for all life on Earth. It's plant food. The more CO2 produced, the more food, plants and trees the Earth is blessed with. The climate change scam is not founded on science, it's founded on feelings. It has become a religion for those who consider themselves above religion. Quick maths means your daily food allowance of 2,600 grams of carbon dioxide will be enough to buy 26 grams of red meat, one mouthful, and then eat nothing else that day. I raised this years ago in this chamber when the World Economic Forum first called for a limit on red meat of 30 grams a day. Another conspiracy theory that's come true. A cooked breakfast will have to be half the size to squeeze into your daily allowance, again with nothing left over for food for the rest of the day. Your daily allowance will cover 2 plant-based meals a day because predatory billionaires like BlackRock and Bill Gates are buying up farmland to grow the cereals and soy needed for plant-based meals. So not surprisingly, the whole thing is rigged towards the products they can exploit for their own financial gain, including plant-based fake meat, which contains 20 chemical ingredients. Most are shared with pet food. The World Economic Forum at Davos has hosted speakers calling for this system to include carbon dioxide credit trading, so rich people can live their lives exactly as they do right now, and poor people can skimp on food, clothing, travel, electricity and entertainment, and sell their excess credits to rich people. The rules never apply to the people that make them. The war on livestock is a war on good nutrition based on a lie, which is designed to enrich billionaires.
Our food systems are harming the health of people and planet. Food systems contribute to over 30% of greenhouse gas emissions and account for almost 1/3 of the global burden of disease. Transforming food systems is therefore essential by shifting towards healthier, diversified, and more plant-based diets. If food systems delivered healthy diets for all, we could save 8 million lives per year. WHO is committed to supporting countries to develop and implement policies to improve diets and fight climate change. I'm therefore very pleased that over 130 countries have signed the COP28 UAE Declaration on Climate and Health. Together, we can protect and promote the health of both people and planet.
I worked in the United States Senate Environment and Public Works Committee back in, it was 2007, the UN came out with their big agricultural report where they said that cow emissions were more harmful to the planet than all the trains, planes, and automobiles combined. And this was the beginning or the acceleration of going after the global food supply. And what happened in the interim time is there's all sorts of people in Hollywood, people like, Nicole Kidman pushing insect eating, with Vanity Fair actually like eating live insects, which I never understood where the animal rights people were with pushing that. We're seeing this madness spread everywhere now. In Ireland, they're going to cull 200,000 cows over 3 years to meet the net zero climate goals. Germany, this is their German newspaper, the Daily Bild, 1 sausage per month, according to the government's new proposal with the German Nutritional Society. This is real. It's happening. It's not theoretical. We're not talking about down the road. You saw the video clip. John Kerry announced earlier in June that we're now going to be targeting American agriculture. What happens is these politicians, and yes, even Republican politicians, sign on to these UN climate treaties and UN climate reports. Not so much George W. Bush, not Donald Trump, but certainly George H.W. Bush. But at these summits, and of course with Obama and Biden, they sign on to, I will limit, along with these other politicians, I'll limit the Earth's temperature to 2 degrees. And I'll limit up to 1.5 degrees, and we'll double down on net zero. Like modern witches arguing over how they're going to fine-tune the Earth's climate. Well, this grandstanding has real consequences because they then have net zero goals, a treaty that they sign, like the UN Paris Agreement. They go home. In the case of the Netherlands, where they wanted to eliminate up to almost 12,000 family-run small farms before the farmers fought back, a court ordered that they had to comply with these net zero commitments. And this is what's now happening both in our automotive industry and our food and energy industry. We've committed ourselves, and now we're forced to come out and start reorienting every aspect of society. This is the intentional collapse of food, agriculture, energy, and to boot our free speech, so we can't complain about it.
You want some figures? Okay, latest water test. Tested the rain. 13,100 micrograms per liter of aluminum in the rain in 2013. Normally, it should be 0. So 13,100 is pretty damn much, folks. It used to be 0, then it was 100s in the 2000s, and then since 2010, it's into the 1,000s and the latest 13,100. In the snow on Mount Shasta, pristine Mount Shasta, 61,000 feet. No, excuse me, 8,000 foot level, 61,000 micrograms per liter. 4 times the amount that is found in the soil up there. Where in the hell is this stuff coming from if it's not coming from the soil? You know, these tests are international in scope. We're seeing this all over the world, guys. Okay, pH of acid soils is 20 times more alkaline. The aluminum in the soil has doubled in the last 10 years. Aluminum blocks essential nutrients. I am unable in my garden to restore normal pH, and that's because nanoparticles are now in the circulatory systems of both plants and humans. So welcome, fellow guinea pigs. The collapse and decrease of agriculture is something I worry about even more than the previous info about autism and Alzheimer's.
I've got to show you guys something. This is traditional sweet corn. Now, what's really wild about this is not what we used to call our heirloom seeds. This is just our regular sweet corn that you buy off the shelf. This is GMO corn. Now, we grow this as our field corn. And the reason I want to show you this is I'm going to show you 2 things. This is heirloom corn. Now, we don't weed it. Normally every year, this corn has come up and done really good for the last 10 years. Same seed, so I've grown it over and over, and we rotate our crops. But also, you look at the sunflowers. Once you look at them sunflowers, the sun I can't see it. Well, the sun basically is right there. And they've got the flowers have turned away from the sun. This is not something, obviously, if you look down this, that's our garden. We grow over an acre worth of just garden. So what I'm trying to get at is something's not right. There's two things that ain't right. The amount of aluminum in our soil now is 5 times to 10 times higher than it was even last year. Let me show you something else. Now that sweet corn is bought, like I said, from the store, so it's not an heirloom seed. It's supposed to be an all-natural seed. It's non-genetically GMO, but I'm starting to doubt it. However, these are cucumber plants. Now, traditionally, those cucumbers, I'd have so many. After putting them on the stand, we'd be giving them away, giving them to food pantries. And our corn, you know, the heirloom corn, we'd be giving it away. Our garden this year has suffered the worst. It's not due for not water. These are some of our hot pepper plants. Normally, these plants, I would have so many of these hot peppers that you wouldn't be able, I wouldn't be, like I said, I couldn't sell enough of them, we'd be giving them away. And hopefully we have a better garden next year. So we still got enough that we're going to be able to maintain costs, operational costs. We still have our vegetable stand. It's just not booming like it usually is. We've let the weeds kind of come back up and take over some of the garden because we weren't getting the production out of it what we should. So the stand's good. We're going to can enough for our family, but as far as being able to provide for others, it's not going to be as viable for us to be able to do that. Y'all have a good day.
Every time I turn around, guys, I got more trees down. I mean, it's horrific. Trees are dying by the thousands. Oak trees, pine trees especially. This used to be a beautiful hillside with white oaks, red oaks, water oaks, pines. Everything is sick and dying. There's only one explanation, guys, and that's geoengineering. Aluminum oxide, SRM, solar radiation management bullcrap. And I would like to know why no one in the scientific community is speaking out and letting their voice be heard. Every time I come down here, there's another dead tree falling. I mean, they're all going to be dead within 5 years, guys. There's another dead pine. It's died since I was here a couple months ago. It's dead. Guys, you got to speak out about this. This is silent warfare.
There is another part of the Bible that gives us some more insight into this famine. And what is so telling about where we are is that you wouldn't have known what this detail meant until now. The verse I'm talking about is 1 Timothy 4, verses 1 through 3. Now the Spirit expressly says that in the latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their own conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry, and commanding to abstain from foods which God created. Now I'm sure we've all heard this verse and we're very familiar with it, and there is a lot to talk about here, but the part I want to point out is the very last part, the part where we're told, and commanded to abstain from foods which God created. The Bible is telling us that people, and as we know from Revelation, it will be the non-elite people, will be forced to eat food that is not fit for human consumption. Check this out.
this might actually be your future dinner. That's because right now, globally, meat agriculture is being vilified for causing too much climate change, for using up too much land, for using up too much water, and so on and so forth. And as a part of the green agenda to fix all these meat-related problems, well, policies are being implemented across the entirety of the world, which are effectively handcuffing farmers and sometimes even completely crippling the farmers' operations. However, you might be wondering, if all of these meat and dairy and cattle farmers are put out of business in order to save the planet, what exactly are people going to eat? Where are people going to get their source of protein from? Well, fear not. That is exactly where insect farming comes in. For the past 10 or so years now, international organizations like the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the European Union, and so on and so forth have been working relentlessly to push forward and to normalize the edible insect industry, which might help to explain why, seemingly all of a sudden, we're seeing all sorts of celebrities endorsing insect food, we're seeing media outlets across the world normalizing edible bugs, and we're even starting to see children have insects be introduced into their school lunch programs. However, in order to explain how we got to this point, let's start at the very beginning. 10 years ago, all the way back in the year 2013, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, they released this report right here titled Edible Insects, Prospects for Food and Feed Security. Now, this report of theirs, it outlined how there are going to be too many people on this planet in the near future and that the current model of meat production will not be adequate to feed them all. Here's specifically how the report began. Quote, "It is widely accepted that by 2050, the world will host 9 billion people. To accommodate this number, current food production will need to almost double. Land is scarce, and expanding the area devoted to farming is rarely a viable or sustainable option. Oceans are overfished, and climate change and related water shortages could have profound implications for food production. To meet the food and nutrition challenges of today, there are nearly 1 billion chronically hungry people worldwide, and tomorrow, what we eat and how we produce it needs to be reevaluated. Inefficiencies need to be rectified, and food waste reduced. We need to find new ways of growing food." And of course, given the fact that this report is titled Edible Insects, you kind of see where they're going with this. Quote, "Edible insects have always been a part of human diets. But in some societies, there is a degree of distaste for their consumption. Insects offer a significant opportunity to merge traditional knowledge and modern science in both developed and developing countries." Now, this UN report, again, published 10 full years ago, well, it's now considered, in retrospect, one of the foundational documents in this effort to bring insect eating into mainstream Western culture. And just as a fun fact, in this UN report, there are some possible solutions to getting over people's resistance in the West to eating bugs. Here's what they wrote on this front, again, 10 full years ago. Quote, "Among the strategies to be considered for developing effective communication strategies for governments, international agencies, the private sector, and NGOs are tailoring messages for different audiences, identifying incentives for using insects as food, using success stories and best practices/experiences to promote the consumption of insects, involving local media to raise awareness, creating a communication toolkit on the importance of and opportunities for insects as food and feed, and seeking endorsements from celebrities to improve the credibility of the sector." It's kind of amazing to read this in retrospect, knowing how 10 years from when this was written, well, we have media outlets and celebrities across the whole world indeed pushing for the eating of insects. It's always fascinating to see how many of these grassroots campaigns that we see on television and on social media can be traced back to some sort of a centralized plan at the international level.
Are you ready to start eating bugs? That is what your overlords are hoping for. As you may have noticed, there is now an unrelenting effort by the news media to convince you to make creepy crawlies a part of your diet. But where's this all coming from, you ask? Well, you can blame the World Economic Forum as a start. It's a creepy organization of government and corporate elites run by an even creepier dude that would make Hans Landa's skin crawl. The World Economic Forum is the group behind the Great Reset, and the organization loves dictating to people what they are allowed to do, how they must live their lives, and more recently, what they are allowed to eat. What they really want is for you to stop eating meat and replace your diet with insects in order to, as they say, save the planet from climate change. Of course, those rules don't apply to them. While they lecture you about climate change, they will fly around in their private jets, go to the world's best restaurants, and chow down on the most delicious steaks at their various conferences. And this is exactly how it works in poor countries. Steaks and high-quality animal products are for the powerful, the roly-polies are for you. Big government, tax and spend politicians who created record levels of inflation also love this idea, by the way. If you can convince people to replace their diet with bugs, the rising price of meats and animal proteins are no longer a problem. The bug diet also works really well for big agriculture. The giant food corporations who lobby and buy off politicians would love nothing more than to sell you insects, as well as ultra-processed industrialized grains and seed oils that go into the fake meat alternatives. Why? Well, because you get way higher profit margins manufacturing and selling industrial sludge than you do raising free-range livestock and cattle. So I hope you're excited for your caterpillar breakfast burritos and mealworm sandwiches. The bugs are already on the plate, people. Your leaders are just waiting for you to come home for dinner.
Buy some Bill Gates biological beans? Well, it turns out it looks like they're coming. I just got a report that Bill Gates has donated $50 million to a new company called Tarana Biosciences, and they're going to create a new category of biologically modified crops. One of their first targets is soybeans, but you won't know that you're buying a modified soybean from this Bill Gates technology because our EPA has said that it is, quote, naturally occurring compounds and is not GMO. What am I talking about? It's taking RNA from a virus and using it to insert whatever gene they want into whatever crop they want. Once the RNA is inside the plant, it replicates and it gives it different features, and the company brags that they can create whatever feature they want. One of their targets is to make it more insect resistant. So you're going to put insecticides within the food. They're targeting tomatoes, corn, and soybeans first. It will not be labeled as modified and it will not be labeled as GMO. But Bill Gates is betting on making profit by genetically modifying our food without telling us. Our EPA has already given it the green light.
So I'll give two examples. So one is that people eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption on meat, then they would it would actually really help the planet. But people are not willing to give up meat. Yeah, you know, some people will be willing to, but other people, they may be willing to, but they have a weakness of will. They say, wow, this steak is just too juicy. I can't do it. I'm one of those, by the way. So, you know, but so here's the thought, right? So it turns out that we know a lot about, we have these intolerance to, for example, I have milk intolerance. And some people are intolerant to crayfish. So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering. We can kind of possibly address really big world problems through human engineering.
I think at this point, with all that we have covered in this series, there is no question about where we are on the prophetic clock. But we're still not finished here. The fourth seal is also about to unfold. Revelation 6, 7-8 tells us, "When the Lamb broke the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature saying, 'Come.' I looked, and behold, an ashen horse. And the one who sat on it had the name Death, and Hades was following with him. Authority was given to him over a fourth of the earth to kill with the sword, and famine, and plague, and by the wild animals of the earth."
Let's talk about Bill Gates and the next pandemic. Bill Gates and the World Health Organization have announced when we will see the next pandemic, and they have a date for us. So get this on your calendar, prepare, plan your trips around this next pandemic right now. We'll have more on that in a second and the dates, but you'll remember Bill Gates and the World Health Organization previously held what was known as the 2001 event, Event 201. And it was about the Event 201 exercise. It was a simulation involving a coordinated global response to a coronavirus that they held in a simulation just months before COVID-19 was declared a global pandemic. So they're pretty good at predicting this stuff. I don't know how they pull this off.
Fauci, remember, Fauci told Trump in 2017, not that there could be, not that there might be, but there would be a pandemic during his presidency.
Yes.
Yeah, and Obama ran exercises for it during his
presidency.
pregnancy.
During his pregnancy.
During his presidency, too.
At the womb factory.
So they've just gotten together and they're doing it again now. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, along with Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security and the World Health Organization. I wish I was making this up, but this is not a conspiracy theory. They did this. And they just conducted their next pandemic tabletop exercise in Belgium. It's called the Catastrophic Contagion. Hey, honey, where are you going this weekend? I'm going to Belgium. I got a conference. Oh, yeah, what's it about? It's called the Catastrophic Contagion event. Oh, what are you guys going to be doing? Oh, we're just planning the next pandemic. Just getting everything ready. Getting everything ready and locked up, and the new virus and vaccines. We'll have vaccines ready to go because that's how we do this. We plan it, and then we, of course, have the vaccines ready to go. So this is the video that Bill Gates put together, along with the team, complete with simulated news reports like this. This is really what they're preparing for us. This video is called Get Ready. Watch. Catastrophic contagion, a global challenge. Breaking news.
Two Latin American countries alerted the WHO of several outbreaks of a new infectious disease that's mysteriously appearing across the region. Severe Epidemic Enterovirus Respiratory Syndrome 2025.
Oh, so that's the name, guys. Just write this down. That'll be the name of it, okay? It's going to be SEERS. It's going to be called the Severe Epidemic Enterovirus Respiratory Syndrome, and 2025 is when we'll see it, okay? Now, it says at the bottom this is a fictional scenario, but come on.
Over the past 6 weeks alone, there have been 500 confirmed or suspected cases reported. The virus could cause a severe pandemic if early containment and mitigation efforts are not successful.
The pandemic in this type of situation and trend would be a risk for the global health security.
Pandemics are inherently political, financial, and so much broader.
We have not spoken on the leadership in country. And I think that we need to be also very careful. We cannot decide a lot of things without the leaders be involved and agree on that.
Oh, really? That's an interesting point that she's making. Oh, instead of unelected globalists making decisions, she's saying, wait a minute, we need to have our leaders involved in this discussion.
Wait, so the white guy was the dissenter,
right?
Like the one we're supposed to say, oh, yeah, he's a naysayer. We don't agree with him. And then she shuts him down.
She shuts him down,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
There is no substitute for national leadership.
It's important to support the local response or the national response.
Training those that are in these areas first, enabling them with the tools, protecting them, and if needs be, regional solidarity first.
At this stage, communication is key, and communication should include not just scientists with data, but also social, religious, and political leaders.
Trust. This is an essential issue, and trust was broken among countries, between populations and healthcare systems, between healthcare systems and governments.
I'm very sorry to say that in 2025, we need to strengthen the health system.
WHO needs to be a voice for the voiceless.
No one is safe until all of us are safe.
As of today, there have been an estimated 1 billion cases worldwide, with more than 20 million deaths, including nearly 15 million children. Countless millions are alive, but left with paralysis or brain damage.
Oh, okay. So that's how it'll. So, I'm sorry. You hear those numbers? 1 billion people. Okay. Millions of children. And then those who are left will have brain damage and paralysis. So that's That's what we'll have. That's how this is going to unfold.
The most successful countries are those which invested in preparedness and trained for this moment years in advance. This included having full-time pandemic preparedness and response teams, which conducted detailed operational planning and routinely tested those plans through exercises and drills.
Okay. I should also point out, I didn't recognize her at first. This is Jean Reserve. She used to be a CNN anchor. She used to be a CNN reporter.
Did she?
Yeah. So now, I mean, just goes to show you like the cozy. I didn't recognize her at first. Her hair is, she's older, gray, and I didn't recognize her. But she was a CNN anchor reporter. This goes to show you the coziness between the mainstream media and the likes of like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the World Health Organization.
Might have been much less.
There it is, catastrophic contagion from October 2022 and now 2025. So that's what it'll be. It'll be the Sears infection. The Sears virus.
Well, they said that was an enterovirus. They said that was an enterovirus, which is that was polio was an enterovirus.
Oh, good.
So
and COVID was not?
Interesting.
No.
Norovirus. COVID was a corona.
So yeah, the same people behind Event 201 that David was just talking about from a few years ago took place almost 3 years ago to the day. By the way, they completed their new one now, and they say that this is going to originate in Brazil, 2025. And get ready.
Now, there is more to the fourth seal than just pandemic. It's also an expansion of the famine and war, and also along with that, we'll see that wild animals will turn against man. Those things, with the exception of the wild animals, we've seen. There is no doubt that we are in the home stretch. I know we've all hoped that we would be home by now, but don't lose patience. Therefore, be patient, brothers and sisters, until the coming of the Lord. The farmer waits for the precious produce of the soil, being patient about it until it gets the early and late rains. You too be patient, strengthen your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is near.